Welcome back, everybody. Today we are in a Blackstar HT Studio 20. What should have been a very quick 20-minute job of just swapping out some power tubes has turned into a bit of a effort to figure out how to bias these amps. Not a lot of info online. Took a while to track down even the schematic for this thing. Contacted Blackstar, who apparently is owned by Korg, to say, hey, there's this test point 13. I'll show you right here, right next to our bias. I'll post the schematic on the Patreon where I put other info. Found one post that said this should be like negative 40 volts or so, which would kind of make sense. EL34s, a pair of EL34s. These amps are a combination of fixed adjustable bias and also cathode bias. I'll show you on the other side, but the chassis has the circuit board recessed to the point where you can't get the compu bias or anything in here. You'd need to have like extenders for your tube sockets. So that's another thing, or another complication. But then also Korg basically said we only give that info out to people that are authorized service centers. I said, okay, I'll fill out the paperwork to become an authorized service center. And they basically wanted like so much information that I just said, I'll figure this out. So the one trick you need to know when you're biasing one of these things is you have to have something plugged in to the input. I'm going to show you exactly why. But basically these things don't pull any current or a much lower current on your tubes if you don't have input plugged in. And that was the missing link for me. Finally tracked down one small piece of information on a thread online stating that. Okay, so let's dive in. We're going to go through a bias method that works for most push-pull amps. Let's take a look. Okay, so typically to bias, we need a combination of things. We need to know the plate voltage of the tubes. We also need to know the idle current going through the tubes, just at rest with no signal going in. How much current is each tube pulling? And then we need to know how much power the tube should dissipate. So for these EL34s, we're going to have 25 watts as our power. We know we don't want to actually be at that full 25 watts. That would be bad for the tubes, or they wouldn't last very long. So we're going to multiply that by about 0.7 for 70% dissipation, which gets us to somewhere right around, I think that's 17.5. Here we go. This is our target. This is what we're looking for. So whatever our plate voltage is, multiplied by our idle current, we ideally want it to be at 17.5 watts, or even a little bit lower. If we were to go down to like 50%, really we want to be in between these two, right? That'd be 12.5 watts, somewhere in there. So how do we do that on an amp where we can't use something really handy like the compu bias? Now we can do this by measuring across the output transformer. So these 2 points, SP, let's see, what's that say? 16 and 17 are going to go to the external leads, the primary side of our output transformer. So you can think of, this is one of our plates, this is the other plate for the tubes, and those are going to those points of the output transformer. And then the center here is going to, this is going to be the center tap, which is going to go to ground or going to go to some other point. On this schematic, I don't think it even shows us. I can pull up a, unless it's right here. Okay. Is this it? No, that's for our heaters. Okay, so regardless, here's what we can do, is we can use the resistance of those two windings. With the amp powered down, we can measure this resistance and this resistance. And then we can, when we are powered up, find that same voltage for each one. And then use that, because our current will be equal to our voltage divided by our resistance. So we can get a pretty close approximation of what our idle current is. So let's talk about how to do that. We're going to record some values here. So we're going to say so we've made sure that there's no voltage on the amp. We've got to power everything down. We're going to set our meter for DC resistance and SP16 and 17. So these two are the outer sides, and we can confirm that by going, okay, there's about 437 ohms. If I go to SP4 in one side, it's about half, and the complement is there. Now, it's okay that those are a little bit different. Ideally, they would be centered completely, but we're basically going to measure this resistance, mark that down, so black to brown, 198 ohms. Let's write that down. That's black to brown. I think it was 198.3. Let's confirm that. Perfect. And then red to brown, 239.5. So I'll write that down as well. Oh, I've already forgotten what it was. 239.5. Perfect. Okay, so now we can set our meter to voltage. We're going to power up. We're hooked up to our dummy load. I'm going to show you the issue that I fought with here for a little bit. But let's just make sure this is safe to power up. Okay. So our ground is going to be right over here, SP3. And that is on the schematic shown right here, SP3. And it actually goes through some filtering here and then our couple diodes just to raise things up and probably act as a protection. Okay, so plate voltage, if we go to that SP3, I'm going to go off pin 3. Okay, 366.7 or so volts. These are pretty close. 362, 363. We'll call it 363. I'm going to make note of that voltage. Now, if I measure the voltage now across one of those same points, let's see what we get. Got our leads reversed here. 2.15, that's pretty low. So that was red to brown. 2.15 volts. Divided by the resistance we recorded, which was 239.5. And you can see we get 8.9. We have to move the decimal over 3 places to get milliamps. 8.9 milliamps. That's really low. If we multiply that by our 363 volts, we're dissipating 3.2 watts. Now let's do the same thing, but I'm going to plug into the input of the amp. And this was the trick that took scouring the internet for. So what did we have? 2 point something volts for this voltage. What do we have now? 11.9. Okay, let's take that 11.93. 11.93 volts divided by our resistance of that side of the coil from the transformer, 239.5. Move this over 3 places, we get 49.8 milliamps. Multiply that by our plate voltage, we get 18 watts. So these amps need something plugged into the dang input in order to turn on the actual idle current. Okay, so now that we know that, let's write down our voltages. We've got we'll call 12.6 for red to brown. I'm going to write this down off screen and then we'll do the calculations together. And then we're going to go, let's see, black to brown. I have that reversed, yeah. 10.6. And then now that things are moving, let's double check what our plate voltage is, because it might have changed. So we'll go over here to SP3. I apologize, that's under the meter. To pin 3. See, it's dropped down about 10 volts, 320. Right here. Pin 3, 318. Okay, so let's split the difference, call it 319. Okay, so now I'm going to power down and we'll take a look at our calculations. Okay, so let's walk through our calculations here. We had between the black and brown wires on here, so one side of the primary of the output transformer, 198.3 ohms. We measured 10.6 volts across that once something was plugged into the front of the amp. We do 10.6 volts divided by that 198.3 ohms, and we get 53.4 milliamps. So that would be 0.053.4. That would be 0.0534 amps is what would come up on your calculator. I can show you that just so that's clear. So 10.6 divided by 198.3, we get an answer in amps. I'm referring to it as milliamps there just by moving the decimal over, but we're going to calculate it as amps. For the other side, between red and brown, same thing, 12.6 volts divided by our 239.5 ohms we measured with the power off, 52.6 milliamps. These are pretty close, so I don't think we need to mess with our balance or anything like that. Now our plate voltage, but when we were basically unloaded, there was no current or very little current being drawn, was 363 volts. But once things were moving, it was actually 319 volts. We're going to take each of these values, put them back into amps, or, if you're comfortable with your conversions, you'll know how to do this. But multiply each by 319, we get 17.05 watts here, 16.78 watts here. And again, I'm going to show you. So we have our 53.4 milliamps, which is this value. Multiply that by 319. Oh, there we go. 17.05 watts. And then same, but for this guy, 16.78 watts. Now, these two values, we want them to be between these guys, right? So we were sitting at something just below 70%. And we can actually figure that out as well. We can say 17.05. Divide that by the 25 watts that these tubes are rated for, 68%. 16.78 divided by 25, 67% dissipation. That's pretty dang good. So, long story short, learn from my mistakes here. These amps, these Blackstar amps, don't bother contacting Blackstar or Korg to get information, I guess, unless you want to prove to them that you have a storefront and that you give them your bank information for a line of credit and all kinds of stuff. Didn't seem worth it to me. I told them that I wanted to work on the amps, or I just need info for amps, and they sent me like a quiz that they wanted me to fill out for stringed instrument repair, although I think that was just in case I wanted to do stringed instrument repair. Bit more trouble than I thought it would be worth. Maybe other people disagree with me on that. Curious to hear if any of you out there are running shops, what your opinions are these days on being a qualified service center. In a lot of cases, it kind of doesn't seem worth it anymore. But either way, this thing's up and running now. Really just had to pop the tubes in, but wanted to double check that the bias is correct, as you always should do on an amp. And everything looks okay. So I'll flip this over to show you the chassis and the problem with why we couldn't just plug in the CompuBias. And then I'll plug it in for just a real quick sound test, and then we're going to be all good with this guy. Okay, so here's a close-up of the top. You can see the tubes are recessed by about an inch in there to the sockets on the board. And there's just not enough clearance there to get the socket in for the CompuBias or a similar measurement tool that goes in line with the tube. Which, that's how they had to design these, I guess. But not ideal for service. But these are killer little amps. I don't know how much they're building them for long-term usage, but I know the person that owns this really loves this thing, so wouldn't necessarily discourage anyone from buying one, but I don't know that I would want one for myself without considering it relatively disposable compared to something else. But for the price, hard to beat. These are only a few $100. You just need an amp that sounds good. Why not? But if you're looking for something that's going to last a lifetime and be serviceable for years to come, maybe not the best decision unless you have a really good tech that you trust. Okay, let's do a quick sound test. Fire this thing up. Okay, everything seems good. We're going to get this thing back in the enclosure and get it back to the customer. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.